Hi, friends. I think I'm live. You just kind of never know. So, welcome to day 5. So, we are getting started on January 2nd, which is Monday. Um, so, today I'm kind of rounding things up with talking about carbs, fiber, protein, and just how kind of important they are and how they make us feel satiated. So, in this live, I am referencing a really fantastic episode of the Wellness Mama podcast, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to, and specifically an interview with Kelly LeBeck, who's a nutritionist, and she just has this amazing episode about blood sugar. She gets really like in-depth dorky about it, so I'm like completely dorking out on this, but she has some just really amazing information. So if you're kind of curious about how all of this works together, I think she lays it out really nicely in layman's terms to tell you, how blood sugar impacts us, how to keep it under control, and she has some really great tips for just like making that super easy. So I'm going to go into that a little bit more tomorrow, because we're getting started on Monday with the sugar detox, and so I want y'all to be prepared. I want you to have your groceries purchased and your plan in place and everything to get yourself ready for the 10-day detox. So with that said, we'll do some meal planning tomorrow, but today I want to talk about the fiber, protein, fat, and carbs. So first of all, with carbs, we don't have a dietary requirement for carbs. Like, carbs are not essential for us to live. Now, that does not mean that we shouldn't eat them. Or to get into the kinds that we should be eating, which I think we all know, but let's review. But that said, we have essential amino acids that we need. We have to have fat for like our brain to work, but we have to have fiber so we can poop. But we don't have to have carbs. And so I'll get into why that is so important. But so for protein, so, we hear a lot about protein, the importance of protein, and, protein is in lots and lots of things. As I referenced yesterday, I was a vegetarian for a really long time. But I was a dirty vegetarian. Like, I did not have a good diet. I wasn't getting enough protein, I wasn't getting enough fat, and I think probably the fats I was eating were not the right kind. I mean, it was really bad. I was eating a lot of like simple carbohydrates, processed stuff. So that said, like, vegetarian diet is not always healthy. It can be incredibly unhealthy. Any diet can be unhealthy. So, protein. Protein is important. Like, we know we need it for our muscles. We know we hear a lot about essential amino acids. Well, these essential amino acids, we get all of them when we eat a piece of meat. We can kind of piecemeal them together when we're eating, nuts and beans and things like that. But if you want like the whole shebang, it's in a piece of meat. And that's important because protein makes us feel satiated. And I think back to my days when I was a vegetarian, I was hungry all the time. I was never satiated. And I was thinking about that today when I was doing some research for this live, and went, oh my God, no wonder I was so hungry all the time. I wasn't eating any protein. And I was certainly not getting the whole array of all the essential amino acids that we need to, one, feel satiated, and two, to like have energy. So as you're going through this 10-day sugar detox, make sure that you're getting enough protein, because as the recipes are written, they are amazing. But I think that what's kind of left out in the way the guide is written is that you need enough fat and you need enough protein to make you feel satiated. Because if you're just eating fruit and veggies and salad, that is amazing. That's loaded with fiber, which will sort of help you feel satiated, but it's not going to help you feel satiated over the long term. So make sure you're eating enough protein. We got the fiber covered in all of the veggies and the fruits that are in there. And then making sure that you're eating enough fat. So day 2 or 3, I talked about good fats and bad fats, like, what you should be eating. So nuts are great. Make sure you're using clean oils like extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil. I like unrefined coconut oil. Anything that is expeller pressed is pretty much safe because it's not super processed. And those are going to help you feel satiated. And here's a really important key point is if we've been dieting for a long time, like if we're overweight or we feel like we need to lose weight and we're not feeling great about ourselves, we have a tendency to deprive ourselves. And so if you're taking what's on your pantry list, what's on your meal plan, and taking it very literally, you're going to be really hungry and you're going to give up after a few days, because especially if you've been eating a lot of sugar, your blood sugar is going to be all over the place. So do not be afraid to eat lots of food. When I work with my health coaching clients, we talk about honoring our hunger and fullness. And so this week, I want you to honor your hunger. If you are hungry, eat something. This is not about deprivation. That is not about punishing yourself for eating too much sugar. It's about being healthy. And to be healthy and to be nourished, we need to eat enough food. And so another thing that Kelly LeVette talks about in this podcast episode is omega-3s. So we get lots of omega-6 and 9. We hear these terms tossed around a lot. So we get a lot of omega-6 and 9, but omega-3 is hard to get, and it's actually the most important one because it fights internal inflammation. And so when we talk about internal inflammation, what that means, like what chronic internal inflammation means, is that your immune system is kind of freaking out and it's like wandering around going, well, what's wrong? Like, you don't have anything acute. Like, you didn't bump your elbow, you didn't hurt your knee. So your inflammatory cells are wandering around going, well, what do I need to do? What do I need to fix? And then they don't know what to do. And so you just have this chronic inflammation internally all over. And that in turn leads to chronic disease. So that's when we start to have the insulin resistance, the heart disease, type 2 diabetes, those kinds of things, because your body's like, I don't know what's happening. What are we doing? What are we eating? And so you want to make sure that you're getting enough omega-3s. Now, we know that we get that from fish. We get that from fish oil. And personally, fish oil grosses me out. I took it a lot when I was pregnant because you need it. Your baby is developing, their brain is developing, and so it's sucking all your omega-3 out, and so you need that extra omega-3. But it was so gross. And I will put this on tomorrow because I completely forgot to bring it downstairs with me today. But Juice Plus has this amazing vegan omega-3. Like, I will show y'all tomorrow. You can bite into it, and it tastes like vanilla and orange. It's amazing. It's actually more potent and more effective than the fish oils that you'll get on the shelf at any shelf in the grocery store or whatever you would buy. So that's a really good option, especially if you don't have a great diet. If you're trying to cut down on your internal inflammation, you need to take one. Juice Plus is a really great option. I take it every day. And the other thing with that too, as I was talking about yesterday with the Juice Plus capsules and the fruits, veggies, and berries capsules, that also helps cut down on internal inflammation. So, fruits and veggies, we know we need them. They have all the enzymes we need. We know that our body takes those and does amazing things with the things that are in fruits and vegetables, but we don't eat enough. And so Juice Plus is really great for that. And here's another really interesting point too, as I was talking about, making sure you're eating enough, is fat makes us feel satiated as well. So fat and protein are going to make you feel full. And when we're eating diets like keto, I'm not a huge fan of keto because I think you need to really have your diet locked in to be successful with keto and get everything you need. But the reason that keto is so amazing is because when you're not eating a bunch of carbs, you're not eating a bunch of sugar, you're training your body to use fat as fuel first. And so you don't have these crazy blood sugar fluctuations. And that's really amazing for people who are pre-diabetic, for people who have type 2, or just for somebody who, is carb sensitive. So that's why keto is amazing. But, you don't have to be keto to also just kind of eat lower carb and not get these crazy blood sugar fluctuations. And that said, what happens when we have our fasting window? So part of what you should be doing too is making sure you have a 12-hour fasting window, and that's really easy to do. If you don't eat after 7 p.m., you don't eat before 7 a.m., you have a 12-hour fasting window. And why you want to do that is because when you wake up in the morning, your blood sugar is going to be low and stable. Now, if you're somebody who gets up and has a bagel, has a donut, has juice, or goes to Starbucks and gets a fun, fancy drink that tastes amazing, you're completely wrecking your blood sugar for the rest of the day, because there's no way after you have that sugar in the morning that your blood sugar is going to come back down to your fasting resting level. So what happens is you start to snack. And then 3 o'clock, you got the munchies and you're tired, and so you start snacking more. And so you get in this cycle and on this sugar train. So going back to what we were talking about yesterday, where you do this over time and your blood sugar is out of whack for long periods of time, that's when you start to get these chronic diseases. And so with this detox, what you're trying to do is break that cycle for yourself. So I'll talk about as we go through the detox, not going back into that habit of either having your juice in the morning, having your bagel in the morning, whatever it is that's throwing your blood sugar out of whack that tastes amazing but is completely screwing up your day. So as you're eating and through the detox, make sure you're focusing on lots of fiber, which I'll get to in a second. And to review, make sure you're eating plenty of fat, so nuts, good healthy fats, expeller pressed, not super processed. Make sure you're eating lots of protein. Beans and meat are amazing. And don't be afraid to eat too much food. And now back to the fiber. So another thing is fiber makes us feel full. And you can eat things, after the detox, right? You can eat things that have sugar in them as long as you've got the fiber with it. So I'm going to use the example of an apple. So you eat apple, you drink some apple juice, right? You've got acellular sugar and cellular sugar, all right? So the acellular sugar is your apple juice. It's out of the cell. You've got your cellular sugar, that's inside the apple, right? So the apple, you eat it, you have to go through the whole digestive process. Like you're burning calories doing that, like you're extracting things, and then you're pooping out and peeing out the rest of it. But if you drink apple juice, the cells are already broken down and they're going straight into your bloodstream, and you're ingesting way more sugar than you ever would if you just ate an apple, and you're not going to feel full afterwards. So you're going to want more because your blood sugar is all out of whack. So I hope that by saying all this, like I'm bringing all the pieces together of, what happens when we eat something super sweet and our blood sugar's all out of whack, versus, what happens when you're eating whole food. So, back to that kind of analogy with the apple and the apple juice, you want to make sure that you're eating cellular whole food carbs and whole food sugars versus acellular sugars, because the cellular whole foods, the cellular sugars are not going to mess with your blood sugar. You're going to have it's going to be way more stable for you. And so the other thing that we talked about yesterday too is I kind of, talked about adrenal fatigue, talked a little bit about type 2 diabetes and how when we're eating a lot of sugar, eating a lot of processed carbs over time, that makes everything go out of whack. And that's partially because when that happens, it's creating that chronic inflammation. So, you want to cut all this stuff out so that you've got some stability in your blood sugar. And so, the other point that I wanted to cover is that making sure as you're going through this that you've got the right mindset in place. So if we've dieted for a long time, we get really down on ourselves. Like I teach a class called the Clarity Catalyst, and we talk about the voice of judgment. You've got this little gremlin in your head telling you can't do it. And so before we even get started, I want you to address the little gremlin in your head and tell them, no, I can do this. And, if you've been eating a lot of sugar over the holidays, or if you're somebody who just is really reliant on carbs and sugar, like I'm not going to lie, this is going to be hard. but you can totally do it. And it's a great time to get your mindset in the right place. Like, we're all like, new year, new you. Like, there's just something really renewing about the new year. And so hang on to that. Like, grasp it as hard as you can and stick with it for these 10 days, and you're going to feel amazing. And like I said, as we go through the detox, I'm going to be here to support you. I'm going to go live every day. You're going to get emails. Please make sure you sign up to get the emails. So I'm going to be going live every day, and then I'm going to be going live afterwards too, because our work does not end after those 10 days. I'm not going to leave you hanging and being like, okay, now what? So after the detox, we're going to talk about what to do next. Like, what are some steps you can take throughout the year to make sure that you're able to stick to this. And what it really comes down to, and I want you to get your mindset right on this, is it comes down to small changes. So you're going to make some small changes over these 10 days, and I want you to be thinking about what you can do. Like, what's one thing you can do when we're done with this that you can stick to for the rest of the year? Is it eating a better breakfast? Is it making sure that that you're going to cut out the Starbucks, or you can have it once a week? Like, it's not to say that you can never have sugar again. It's just that you can't load on the sugar and the processed carbs every day. It's terrible for you, and we've established that, right? It's terrible for you. And then also being able to focus on those fruits and veggies. So here's another example of a habit that you might try to adopt this year, is making a priority. Like, don't think about cutting things out. Think about adding things in. What are you adding in for the next 10 days? Are you adding in extra fruit? Like, are you adding in extra berries? Are you adding in extra salad every day? Like, what are you adding in? And that shift in mindset can make it so much easier to do, because then you've accomplished something and you're proud of it. Like, go mark it down somewhere. We do have a food diary. Mark it in your food diary. Go put it up on your refrigerator and be like, I did something awesome today. Check it off, and then see how much progress you've made. And that shift in mindset of not depriving yourself versus you're not taking things away, you're adding things in, and it's a completely different view on this. So I will leave y'all with that. I will be back tomorrow to talk about meal planning with some extra resources, and we'll go through, like, kind of step by step what's in the guides that you have to make sure that you have everything set up. We're going to add a little bit into the meals that are already in the meal plans, because as they are, they're a little bit sparse, especially if you don't have your Juice Plus Complete ready for your smoothies and things like that. So making sure that you're eating enough and you're not starving. All right, so that said, I will see y'all tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching, and have a lovely evening.